Just now realizing this is live because you're like, man, why wouldn't you have edited something out that was that terrible? Because it's live and I are stuck with it. Feel free to say hi in the chat. And if you're watching on the rebroadcast, you can do the same thing down in the comments below. I'm a professional, I swear. I do want to say welcome and shalom to all of you that are joining us. We will be picking up in the book of Acts, chapter 20, verse 1. We're going to take a gander at Paul's trip to Troas and in a little teaching excursion he partook in that might have caused someone to fall 3 stories. I'm not pointing any fingers, but I'm just saying, brevity is something that maybe he should have considered. We will be using the New King James Version of the Bible, as well as the Complete Jewish Study Bible, as a frame of reference for one of these passages. I will be digitally using the blueletterbible.org web-based service. It is free. They do have apps for your phone and mobile device. Not sponsored by, but definitely appreciated by yours truly. Believe it or not, this is actually a serious ministry. You wouldn't know that by the first minute and a half of what I've done here today. But I am concerned about those that are working with, that we are coming together and learning together. And so if you ever have a question, comment, prayer request, or anything like that that you'd like to share, you can put those in the appropriate locations. If it's something that's a little bit more personal or maybe something that's a little more involved or detailed, you can send that to me directly at tgikquestions@gmail.com. So before we get started, as is our habit, we will go to the Lord in prayer and then we'll get started in on our lesson. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you and praise you for the day that you've given us. Thank you for the opportunity to come forward and study your word one more day this week. Thank you and praise you for all that you've given, and I pray that you'd help us as we go through this lesson today. One, that I would be short and to the point, and two, that I would have a point that the people hearing might be able to receive, and it might help us all as we come together to grow stronger in you. I pray that you'd help us as I learn during the studying, and that others learn during the hearing, that we be able to grow together as one body, one mind, one accord, especially as we see this last day approaching. We thank you for all that you've given. Thank you for your blessings, because we know they all come from you. And we ask all these things in the name of your son, Yeshua, we pray. Amen. All right, gang, let's go ahead and bounce on over here to our lesson. Now, again, this is Paul after Paul's little, it really wasn't Paul's incident. But it was the incident where we have the 2 hour long chanting of "Great is Diana" of the Ephesians, and so once all that, and that's the uproar they're referencing here, and it says, and after that uproar had ceased, Paul called the disciples, the other followers of Yeshua, they called him to himself, embraced them, and he departed to go to Macedonia. Now, when he had got over to that region, and it encouraged, again, this is going back to the previous places he's planted churches, and he encouraged them with many words. Then he came to Greece, and he stayed in Greece for 3 months until, shocker, there was a plot that came together because Paul apparently just loves to make people mad everywhere he goes. Pretty consistent, except for where he was just at, honestly. And so then the Jews plotted against him as he was about to sail to Syria. So if I read this correctly, because he changed his route, that they were going to get him on the way. And so that's not the first time that methodology has been employed in the book of Acts, where the idea is to, once someone gets outside of the city limits, then you just pay someone to, do your thing out on these country roads where there'd be no one there to witness it. Now, Sopater of Berea, probably not right, accompanied him to Asia. Also, Aristarchus and Secundus of the Thessalonians, and I'm saying all these wrong because I looked them up in the Greek, and so the English is just bad enough. And Gaius of Derbe, and Timothy, and Tychicus, and Trophimus of Asia. And said, these men, okay, now, back up 1 second. Now, so then here we have Lucas giving this, storyline, and see, and when the Jews plotted, and again, third person, and then he's telling you who went with him to Asia, and then where they were from, and it says these men going ahead waited for us. So here we have another one of those switch ups from Luke, where he goes from telling you the story from secondhand knowledge to his firsthand experience. And so this is Luke is joining the crowd, and because again it changes from here on out in every single verse. It says, "But we sailed away from Philippi after the days of unleavened bread." Now, the days of unleavened bread are right after Passover. So, and you sometimes Passover and unleavened bread are all kind of like squished together, and maybe would have been called one for the other. It's just the entire kind of festival era, festival time frame that happens in the spring of the year. Jesus was the Passover lamb. That's the time that this is his death, burial, and resurrection happened. And it says, and in 5 days they joined them in Troas, where we stayed 7 days. So he's giving you the timeline of how long it took for all this. And let me go ahead and close this out here real quick. It says, now, this is the point. On the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, Paul, ready to depart the next day, spoke to them and continued his message until midnight. So, now the first day of the week, according to the Bible, is going to be Sunday, right? We all agree with that? Hang on one second here. Oh, mercy. Hang on just one second. You guys are not going to believe this. I think I have a wild animal in my house that, yeah, it sure does look like it. Okay. Yeah, there's literally a bat that's on my couch right now. So I'm just keeping an eye on my dogs to make sure. I'm not even joking. I'm literally not even joking. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on my dogs and make sure everything's okay. So if I bounce out of here real quickly, you'll understand what happened. Wow, of all the things. All right, so so this first day of the week, what I want to do is I want to grab my complete Jewish study Bible and read an excerpt from there that's going to maybe better explain what this is actually referring to. Now, there are many traditions in Judaism that go back a very, very long way, and this is one of them. And so there's actually a name for it, and there has been a name for it for quite some time. I mean, like way before, we're probably talking back to Babylonian times. So, and please forgive me if this is not the exact correct pronunciation, but I believe it's the Motzai Shabbat, which is, I mean, like, which is actually it says that in Hebrew means the departure of the Sabbath, referring to Saturday night. Yeah, it was considered the beginning of the following week, the first day of the week. It was considered the beginning of the following week, since biblically speaking, days begin and end at sundown, not sunrise or not midnight. Thus, it was Saturday night at the end of the Sabbath, and then it also gives references to where you can study and find out more about that. So, one of the reasons why I want to bring that out is to give you a timeline here. Is this a morning or is this an evening? Well, this is clearly in the evening because the sun has already gone down. And when the sun goes down, in the Hebrew mindset, that would have started the first day of the week. So, first day of the week starts on Saturday evening, and the disciples came together to have a meal. They came to have an evening meal, which was, again, that's part of the tradition. And then they would get together and have an Havdalah, which is they would get together and they would discuss things about the Bible. They talk about what they heard in the temple during the normal Sabbath services. It was just time to kind of reflect back on the day of rest, and then may probably catch up, get ready for what's happening, and all. I mean, just more normal things, because that was the moment, the time when you were permitted to go back to do your normal servile day-to-day kind of work. It says, and Paul was going to leave on the next day. Well, he spoke to them, and he continued his message until midnight. And it says, and there were many lamps in the upper room where they were gathered together. Now, this is important to the story. This is just not like a random piece of information. It's like, yeah, well, we think old dude might have got some, carbon monoxide poisoning, because there's a bunch of lamps up in this room. And guess where he's at? He's at the window. Well, where's the smoke coming? Going. The smoke is going, out the window. And so, and in a window sat a certain young man named Eutychus. That's not how you pronounce that, by the way, who was sinking into a deep sleep. He was overcome by sleep, like he could not wake up. And as Paul continued speaking, he fell down from the third story and was taken up dead, or was supposedly dead, because it says, "But Paul went down, fell on him, and embracing him, said, 'Do not trouble yourself, for his life is in him.'" Now, I don't believe this is a miracle. I don't believe that Paul raised him from the dead. I believe this might have been something that Paul could have been familiar with, could have seen before, because he was an incredibly educated person, and might have deduced from the situation that this was a smoke inhalation problem, and he fell on him. And that literally means to fall on someone, and then squeezing him. And because of that, and probably in the act of with holding him tight to him, could feel that he was, hey, this dude's heart's still beating. Don't worry about him. His life is still in him. And it says, and now when he had come up, again, this is Paul. And now when he had come up, he had broken bread and eaten. So they're, like, all right, they're cool. He's still alive. So, well, let's go ahead and eat. And not even kidding. Like, yeah, he's fine. He's fine. Let's go eat. Well, he talked a long while, even till daybreak. And so he talked from the sundown until sun up, and then he left, and they brought the young man in alive, and they were not a little comforted. Yeah, that means they were like super comforted. So I love this passage because it is, I mean, if you want to view that as being something miraculous, then feel free to go ahead and view it that way. It doesn't like really state that he prayed for him. He just says he fell on him. And normally they kind of point out that there's some kind of a miraculous thing that's supposed to be transpiring here. So, all right, folks. So since this is Thursday night, I will say my normal goodbyes, and I'll try not to be a smart aleck this time. I promise. For those of us who observe a seventh-day Sabbath, I want to say Shabbat or Shabbos, Shalom, and hopefully you'll have a place to worship this weekend. And for those of you who go to church on Sunday, I didn't say anything. I'm totally playing. For those of you who go to church on Sunday, you really need to go to church. You need to get back into there. Your pastor's looking for you. Youth leaders looking for you. Everybody's looking for you, especially the person who's over the area that you used to help with. That person is really looking for you. So, all right, guys, I love you very much. Thank you for stopping in. And before I head out of here, because I nearly forgot, I will say one more time, read and pray every day. If you never learn anything for this channel, learn to read and pray every day. Our walk is all about a relationship. And if you have a relationship with someone, you will communicate with that person. How do we communicate with the creator of the universe? Through reading and praying. Do that every day, because if you don't communicate, you don't really have a relationship. So, all right, folks, love you very much. Have yourself a blessed weekend, and I will see you all Monday at 6 o'clock. Bye.